Welcome to the Fine Print, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Caleb Teskey, and today I am joined by David Lewis from Crow Told Farm. Dave, it's a pleasure to finally connect with you, man.
Oh yeah, agreed, man.
Yeah. Would you mind, if you don't off the top, sharing a 5-minute life story with us?
5 minute life story. All right. Well, let's start off with
That's my icebreaker.
I was born in Tucson, Arizona. Didn't live there long. Moved to New Hampshire. Grew up in southern New Hampshire, Milford to be exact. Lived all over New Hampshire. Picked up glass blowing in 2004. Did that for many years. I've kind of been stagnant with that for the last few years because of my moving situation. I didn't have a shop to blow glass at here, but I'll be changing that as soon as I'm able. Um, I have two kids. I have a girl, and I own my own home. I own my own car. Uh, I have continued education in holistic health and massage therapy. Never pursued it because of how I looked. I wasn't very professional to go into like the spa environment, and I had a lot bigger years back then, and I just didn't want to conform to the needs that everybody else. Like shave your face and all. So I never went that route, but it was not a wasted education because I love holistic health. Obviously, being this deep into cannabis and whatnot. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I moved to Vermont probably 5 years. Yeah, 5 years ago now because of my back issues. I have disc degenerative disease and mild scoliosis, and they wanted to give cortisone shots and or opiates to help the pain, and I was not for that. So it was hard to get at the time, it was hard to get a medicinal card for my back pain in New Hampshire. So Vermont was a better option.
Hmm. So, did you move here just for that reason?
No, not just for that reason. It just happened that a place had opened up on a friend's farm, and me and my girl and my youngest daughter moved here. Um, and then as soon as that happened, I just opened up the door for me to be able to get meds that I knew would work for me.
Now, before we get too deep into that, can we talk about the glass blowing a little? Because I just saw you smoking that lovely rig, and you said that you made that.
Yeah, I
And
did.
yeah, I was hoping maybe you'd tell us like a little bit about like how do you go about making something like that? It's very intricate. It's got a lot of pieces, and I'm curious how you put something like that together.
It takes a lot of years to really get the stuff down. I mean, you got to crawl before you walk type stuff with anything you try to do. Um, I didn't start making these intricate pieces until, man, I want to say 8 years into my glass blowing because it took me that long to really grasp welding and making sure everything was flowing smoothly, no acute angles and such. I mean, you can get away with a lot more acute angles, such things these days, with how you place the glass and how you heat it up and anneal it. But back then, the guy that was teaching me said anything that's an acute angle, you're gonna cause stress and probably have a crack happen there. So,
Hmm.
yep. Then just got around to getting in. I really was influenced by all of the upper glass blowers, just watching them. And then as soon as probably my favorite artist out there would be Salt Glass, and he's just ever since I saw his first Creature stuff back in the early 2000s, I was just like, okay, so then acute angles can happen and sculptures can happen in borosilicate. It's just very very finicky in how you do it and how you can pull it off.
And I looked at some of those, and they were fucking ridiculous.
Yeah, they're really. I mean, the story goes is that he has dreams about a lot of these creatures, and he brings them to light that way. So it's really cool.
Hmm. Now, so you said you were also a medical patient. Like, are you using cannabis to treat your disc disease or some of the symptoms of that kind
Yeah,
of stuff?
yeah. I basically have converted over to doing dabs constantly. Vaping has just been a healthier option for me for my lungs, and it gets the job quick and easy, and then I'm able to get on with my day. Yeah, it's definitely it subsides the pain, and when I have pain at night, it's best for me to have edibles. They're like a slow time release THC for me, so that I'm not having to wake up at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning and having to take dabs to go back to sleep, which it happens frequently when I don't have edibles. I mean, I don't have edibles all the time, but I get the job done with what I got around. That's for sure.
Hmm. I find that edibles really are the most helpful, although to treat the arthritis, like the amount that I have to eat sometimes leaves me just laying on the couch, staring at the wall.
I tend not to do it during the day because it converts in your liver. So like I can't even remember what the hell it's called, but it's a higher delta. It's like delta 12 or something. I can't remember, but your liver converts it to a stronger, potent um, THC, and you get really whacked by it for sure. Which is why I don't eat edibles during the day. I typically, if people are giving them to me, I'll typically keep them until I'm at my house and nighttime happens. So just they definitely they hit me different. They all, I mean, edibles hit everybody different, and I don't like the groggy feeling I get during the day so much. So I typically tend to stay away from edibles during the day.
Well, that's why I don't like eating them at night, because then I wake up in the morning and I'm just like, oh shit, it takes me 3 hours to get out of bed. I got, you know, so
It definitely it
it's
have. I
weird.
mean, there's times where I've had I probably shouldn't have eaten that last cookie feelings. Definitely have those happen.
Okay. So now you said maybe you started growing because you weren't so impressed with some of the medical products you were seeing, and you wanted to make some a better medicine for yourself. Is that in the right
Yeah,
ballpark?
yeah, definitely. It started with me getting my card, and I had to pick a dispensary, and there was the one in Brattleboro,
So
and I
Southern Vermont Wellness.
thank you. So I went to that place, and I felt very I was disappointed. I guess I was let down. I walked in there and it kind of didn't have a I don't know, when you walk into a liquor store or whatever, like a specialty store, they got it like it's kind of set up nice and like a lot of information around. It just didn't feel like that. It felt very it just wasn't very professional, I guess. And then, I started asking questions about the certain flour they had or the concentrates they had or whatever, and I just felt the answers they were giving were kind of subpar, and I could do a better job myself with the answers. And yeah, I left there, just I didn't even get any flour. It was not anything that was really impressive, so I ended up grabbing just some cookies and some feco, uh, full cannabis extract oil, which
Mhm.
is that was more for my pain and my back. I would just put some of that on the cookie and eat that and have a great night. um, so I actually ended up doing a lot of traveling to Massachusetts to help my buddy do some trimming out in the Cape. And then he, in turn, ended up giving me some grow equipment to get me started up here in Vermont once I started getting my own place. Because when I was living at the farm with my buddy, there was no place for me to set up a grow. So we got a rental in 2018, and they knew we were doing our legal amount, and the landlords were cool with it at the time. So we went ahead and did that. And my buddy down in the Cape ended up giving me a lot of help. He sent me off with clones and some lights and whatnot to start up, which was, I'm forever thankful for him for being able to do that. So I started off on Remo nutrients because
So
that's
you
what
just
he.
started small with some free lights that your buddy gave you.
Yeah, yeah, totally small, and then I slowly built up by teaching myself about the organics and the probiotics and such. So I made a huge conversion, a huge step, because I was so reliant on this one and what it was doing for me, and I knew it worked. I knew I got great flour out of it, but then I just really it wasn't a fully organic line, and I wasn't wanting to spend a crap load of money on plastic bottles constantly either. So I slowly, gradually made that switch over to organics, and it's been lovely, and I'm still learning every day. It's crazy.
Why is that something that's important to you?
Well, just like with my food or anything else I ingest, I like to know where it comes from, how it's grown, how it's treated. It goes from like my meat. I don't eat conventional meat. I get a lot of my beef from 5 minutes down the road at my buddy's farm. Um, yeah, I really choose to know exactly how stuff is grown so that I'm putting the best in my body that I can. That goes with my cannabis too. I like to make sure that I know where it's coming. I mean, very rarely that I'll smoke flower from friends that I'm very much so. I guess I'm a snob. I really don't think of myself as a weed snob, but I guess I really, when it comes down to it, I am, and I don't mean to be. It's just that it's a serious trust thing with me where it's like I don't know what kind of stuff you. I mean, I hear of so many people using Miracle Grow to grow their stuff. I'm like, man, that's just not the way.
Uh, we'll get into that another time. So, are you growing anything else on your farm, Dave?
Oh yeah, I have all sorts of stuff going out there right now. I did have chickens too prior to me buying this house and moving here, but moving a whole small farm just was not as easy as I thought it was. me and my girl had split for a little bit at the time, so it was just me doing all this, me getting the mortgage, me getting the house, all of the stuff, and packing up, moving. And I was moving my kids, moving me, moving my farm. It was a huge overhaul, and I had 30 chickens to move, and the coop, and the run. It just was too much, so I ended up leaving the coop. I took the run with me, and I ended up giving away all my chickens. And I plan on getting chickens again. So back to what you asked is, what more am I growing on this farm here? I'm growing peas, I grow lettuce, I grow brassicas, which are broccoli and Brussels sprouts and cauliflowers. Tomatoes, of course, squashes, pumpkins. We pretty much try to fit whatever we can on this little quarter-acre plot.
It looked like you had everything sort of intermingled there.
Oh yeah, I don't. There's no. I mean, my cannabis has its own row. It's the allotted amount we're supposed to have. It's just right in with my garden. I have what 4 or 5 rows of tomatoes, then my cannabis row, and then right next to that is my brassica. Because I try to keep the squash away from the cannabis because squash is very prominent with powdery mildew and whatnot. But I've found a good remedies for powdery mildew, and I've blown away with probiotics, man. Like the probiotic stuff and using that to keep a lot of fungus and mildew away has just been gold.
So I'd like to ask you a little bit about sort of building your soil and about some of those probiotic amendments, some of that Korean natural farming, some of those techniques. I'm really fascinated by how people are building their soil and what kind of amendments that they're using to supplement.
Yeah, it's wild. I actually don't use anything outside. All of the things outside is all just compost. If I see a plant struggling with stuff, I go to the compost, grab some scoops of soil, bring it to the base of the plant, spread it around, water it, and within a week, I definitely see a difference in health, and it's gotten better. Everything on my garden has been. This is what's great about what's going on now is I've been doing no-till gardening for over 10 years now, and then to see this coming out like huge in cannabis, it's awesome. But it also makes what I do not such a specialty anymore. But yeah, I've always loved it. I like I said, I don't add any nutrients to anything outside. Everything is just growing and being happy because of the microbiology that's present in the soil. When I first moved here, I ordered some compost, and I was really shocked to find the mycelium network that was dumped in with it. It was just like I was spreading this compost, and I was finding so much white mycelium in it. I was just so overjoyed with that. So that was already present in the soil. I didn't have to go collect that and bring it into the area. And then I have tons of earthworms in there. I'm constantly spraying foliar spray of probiotics out there, of labs or EM1, and that's constantly more microbes going into the soil, helping release more of those nutrients. It's just a crazy symbiotic relationship I have going on with everything in there that I don't need to add much ever, which is
now. Are you making any of your own probiotics? Because I talked to Eduardo Jaime there from Fine Bud Farms, and he's at home making his own probiotics with rice water and milk, maybe, or something like that.
Yeah, that description you're describing on how to make the labs. You do a rice wash, and then that rice wash is what actually inoculates the milk into making. That separates the whey, which is what you want. The whey is actually what you're looking for. That's your labs, your lactic acid bacillus, and then the cheese or the curds on top you can take out and make cheese with. I've been constantly making cheese. It makes it like kind of a feta type crumbled cheese. It's delicious. I hear. I don't eat. I'm not a cold cheese fan. I like cheese that's all melty. So
more of a fondue guy.
Yeah. My girls love it. They love the that cheese I make from the labs. And I'm also going to be getting into some of the ferments as far as like doing fermented plant juices or an FPJ. It's like one of these mornings I'm going to get out to the garden and pick something that's of abundance while there's still dew on it, because you want to have the dew on it so the microbiology is present on the plants, and then you go ahead and make your ferments with some of the labs.
That's exactly what he was saying. He had a fermented peach juice that smelled like a nice shot of moonshine or something. Like maybe you could drink like or brandy or something,
That's the thing about these things too, is when you're making your own nutrients and your own stuff like that, you don't have to worry about all this protection material and whatnot. Like you can actually splash some on your face and lick it, and it might taste a little funky, but there's probiotics that are good for you. I wouldn't suggest them like slurping this stuff down, because you could get a gut ache because of the amount of probiotics.
Do not try this at home.
do not sip on it. But I mean, like, getting it on you is not a harsh thing as chemical fertilizers and chemical combatants for funguses and such.
So are you mostly growing outdoors, Dave?
I have an indoor stuff too, just like with my my own setup, and yeah, the stuff outdoors is hemp typically.
So let me ask you this. A lot of people have talked about that morning dew that rolls in if you're
Yeah.
living down in the valley where it sort of collects down there, which could give you a lot of mold or PM problems. How do you deal with something like that, especially in a place where we like, you could see it. If you live up here, you could see the fog rolling down. Like, how do you manage that?
It's just keeping up with the weekly foliar spraying. I've been constantly I foliar spray with probiotics weekly, and by doing that, it keeps anything from happening. It's better to keep stuff at bay than to fight a battle that's already sprung up.
So you're
So
spraying that right on the leaves,
uh-huh,
the
and under,
probiotics. Cool.
and yeah, this is prior to the sun hitting them. Like you don't want to be foliar spraying stuff in the direct sunlight either.
So what? You're up
So
at 5 a.m.
either early morning or evening.
Okay.
Anytime the sun is not liable to hit them, or if there's like if I see the rain forecast and it's going to rain, I definitely don't want to be spraying them that day because it's just going to wash it off. I have to do it again.
Mm.
But yeah,
And
keeping up the integral pest management there, the IPM, that's been really key. And thankfully, I've never really had any bug infestations out there of aphids or anything like that. I seem to always find good bugs on my plants as well as the bad ones. So it's like a good battle that stays pretty good there.
mm. And I see a lot of people using the ladybugs now, especially in indoor grows in their little tents to like sort of keep mites and things like that at bay.
Yeah, I used to use ladybugs a lot, but then I was reading that they're not really the ladybugs you want. They're more of an Asian bug, so they're kind of invasive species. So I've stopped getting the ladybugs. I've gotten more of like pirate bugs and nematodes and other good bugs that
Mm.
do the same sorts of things that aren't as environmentally
Those are
potentially bad.
they're Chinese knockoff bugs.
Yeah, that's what I've been reading. So I've been just staying away from those and just getting other ones like they're the last batch I got was a whole batch of good mites. Like I couldn't even see them in the package. I just poured them all on the base of the soil and typically do that once a month or so just to keep stuff from happening. And again, this is proactive stuff that I like to do. I like to keep proactive versus reactive in the garden. It keeps your mind at ease, man. When you like go down there and see, oh, I got a mite infestation, I got to do A, B, and C to get rid of it. Rather than dealing with that, it's just like, well, let's just keep up with this. Let's just keep the fungus gnats down. Let's keep the thrips down. A lot of your common bugs, it'll just keep at bay if they're even present there. I definitely have fungus gnats, and I have thrips every now and again. I mean, any grower that doesn't have that that's impressive for sure. But keeping the good bugs in there with them and keeping them at bay, it's like it keeps everything healthy. And I'm
Mm.
slowly getting to the no-till inside too. Like I've got friends that I look up to immensely. He's like a grower in Maine who does full living soil indoors. And I was just at his facility recently, and I'm just like so many questions for him because that's the next step I'm about to take is to do the living soil indoors. And I'm so close to having that right now. It's just I'm like I'm scared, It's like it's a big plunge for me. I know I've been doing it for 10 years outdoors, but like having the ecosystem do its ecosystem outside is easy. It's a lot easier. Like bringing that and being earth, like I am now Mother Earth inside. It's really hard, you know.
We can recreate this inside with fake light. Yeah.
It's a lot. It really is. And I was talking to my buddy how he's got it going. He's like, yeah, just go to healthy forest, pick up some of the forest floor and bring it in. That's when you want to start spreading around. And he's like, yeah, there might be some mites on it, but typically there's good bugs in there too. And if it gets out of hand, I order my good bugs to take care of the bad bugs. And like, all right, man, this is kind of like what I'm already doing. So I just need to take that step, throw some earthworms in my stuff,
Mm.
and going.
Mm. And now I wanted to ask you about this because I have a note in my phone about photo remediation, and you talked about some people growing in old cornfields and maybe why that's not such a great idea. I was wondering if you would elaborate on that, please.
Yeah. It's really good for anyone getting in this to get soil samples and soil tests if you're growing outside. If you're growing outside and keeping it in pots, that's fine. You're growing in a media that you already know what's going in there. But my main thing is when I started doing the hemp farming in 2018, and I was helping out other farmers get going with it. I was finding out that a lot of them planned on just turning what cornfield was last year into hemp field this year, which is it was not an organic certified field. They definitely didn't treat it organically. They treated it with chemicals and chemical fertilizers and pesticides. and that stuff stays in the soil for at least 2 years. If you don't grow that and constantly spray it every year, it stays in the soil for at least 2 years. And then what cannabis is very much so a photoremediator, which is what I was talking to you about. It's a plant that takes what's in the soil that's bad, and it just takes and deposits this in the plant. Sunflowers is another great example of a photoremediator plant. And it does the same sorts of stuff that cannabis does as far as taking bad toxins out of the soil. So for a plant that is
Heavy metals, I've heard in particular.
yeah, exactly. So a plant that is designated to be a photoremediator is probably not a good thing to be planting in a field full of old pesticides and whatnot that's growing in there, because that's just going to be sucking it out, and then that's going to be what's going into the cannabis. But on the other hand, thankfully, with the legal THC stuff, there's a lot more testing going on with that sort of thing. So I mean, when hemp was coming out, there wasn't as much testing as there's going on now. Like, we were in charge of taking our samples to get tested, and that was typically for just CBD and stuff. It was not, to get pesticide tests and everything else going, which, that's going to change things a lot. And it could be a super bummer for some farmers who bring their crop there without knowing that, oh, I should have treated this soil prior, or I should have, taken a soil test prior, because they could get that test back from the company and be a little bummed out.
And it seems like maybe a small price to pay to learn what kind of soil you're working with.
Oh yeah.
If you're going to farm on any type of scale.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. And now this was another interesting sort of philosophical question I think I asked you. What do you do with the plants after you use them to soak up? Like, I've heard some people using it to soak up radiation or something. We're going to plant cannabis plants and suck all these toxins out of the ground. What do you do with the biomass after that, once you've used it to sort of absorb all of the toxins out of the ground?
It's typically not grown for anything other than just taking the toxins out of the ground, and then they would let the plant die off, and like basically it'd go through its whole period of dying off and recreating more soil by the dead foliage, and it's just a recycle of stuff going on in that area. It definitely, I have not experienced it, but I would think they'd be using more of an industrial hemp to be doing this sort of stuff, so that it's not like a bunch of flower mass that's just all over.
Right. You'd hope so.
Yeah.
Or now, what about water management out there, Dave? Are you on a well? Are you on town water? What are you using for a water source?
Our town is about 400 people population, so I've got a well. It's come back with like the parts per million in it were like nearly nothing, so it's really good water, and the pH is right at 7. So I don't really.
So you've had your water tested?
Well, I do it myself. I've got a parts per meter, and then I haven't had any heavy metal problems or anything like that. I mean, my neighbors would have said something like, "Oh yeah, check your well." There was none of that. I think prior to me buying it, I had it checked too. I don't remember what it was, but it was all clear. Or else, like, because I got the FDA loan, so I wouldn't have been able to move in with anything bad.
Mm-hmm. Now, Dave, we talked about sort of potential licensure. You said maybe you're going to hang back and wait on this a little bit, which is really one of the reasons I wanted to talk to you, because most of the people I talk to are trying to get licensed. You said maybe you're going to just wait and see.
Yeah.
Would you explain a little bit about that position, please?
Well, so when I first got into the hemp stuff in 2018, it was, the mirror of what's going on now is pretty similar, with like everybody jumping in. And I just remember like going on the website and checking out the list of all the farms, and I'm like, this is insane. I hope all these people have output to deal with this prior to even getting into it. But yeah, that was my whole take on that. Was just it was a rocky, crazy start in the hemp field, and I'm kind of watching that similar stuff go down in the THC field. I'm seeing a lot of like chickens with their heads cut off, basically, kind of thing, where there's a lot of questions and not a lot of answers. And if I had gone into a facility and put money into it, and I still didn't have my license by now, or if I was an outdoor grower and I still didn't have my license by now, I'd be sweating. I mean, I know there's other growers out there that are still waiting for their license, and
and people are losing money right now also.
That's my point, is that could not be dealing with that stress of losing money daily without getting that okay green light for your facility, because that
And it does seem stressful. I mean, the rules are pretty well set now, but leading up to this, everything has just been so fluid. And as a business owner, trying to start a business in that environment must be incredibly stressful.
I could, yeah, I see it through friends that are in this, and they're like I said, they're still waiting for their license. And recently, the Vermont Federal Credit Union, I think it was, just sent out an email to everybody saying, yeah, we're halting cannabis
No,
from the list.
that was VSECU. Vermont Federal Credit Union is actually, I think, has just announced that they are going to be taking cannabis accounts.
Great. Yeah, I just know that there's been hiccups in all of this. It's for me, it's easier to watch from the sidelines versus being in it with all the stress that's going on. But I am open to it. I have talked to other potential investors about ideas. Nothing materialized, and I'm not going to lie. When I was talking to the investors in March, I think it was, I was getting excited, getting amped to get things going, and then like the whole May 1st thing came, and I was like, crap, I'm not there. I don't have, and I was really sweating it. I reached out to a few friends of mine, and they're like, look, man, it's gonna be crazy this first year or two. He's like, don't sweat it so much. Get your shit together. Just find the right people to work with, and then you'll get it to work.
In that sense, is it maybe good that you weren't ready?
I think, yeah, it's like that's what my girl had told me too. She's like, it's really kind of good that you weren't really all in and ready to go right away. I'm like, yeah, it kind of better that it worked out that way, I guess, for right now, because yeah, I'm not, I'm just waiting, I guess, for, like I said, the right people.
Well, in the hemp market, I was told that in the first year there was a 90% attrition rate. 90% of businesses did not make it. And if I'm a business owner going into this, uh, I'm seeing a lot of similarities to the hemp market, as I think you are as well. And if I'm a business owner, that's if 9 out of 10 businesses are failing, like maybe laying back and waiting is not a bad idea.
It seems like as the days go on and they progress more and more, I'm seeing that I feel like it's the right decision for right now. I mean, even if I had an investor on my door waiting for me to make decisions, I'd still probably be like, I'm stoked that you're ready, but let's hang back a little bit, see where things are going to go, because it still hasn't even hit the market yet. Like there's still, the sales are going to be happening here soon. It's just trying to see where, like, how flooded the market gets or not. I
But
mean, could get tested and then they could fail like incredibly. Who knows what's going to happen when things actually start progressing further.
sometimes it's better to let other people go in and take the beach, and you you
It really is. I mean, it's not, yeah, it's like that. Yeah, take the beach, y'all. I'll
let me ask you this, because you said there's this sort of gap between growers and business owners, and you said a lot of farmers just think about growing and not like things like drying and curing and stuff like that. Maybe you could elaborate on that a little bit, about that gap between the growers and the business owners, if you wouldn't mind.
Well, that was my biggest thing when I was in the hemp, was I was going around to help other farmers get ready for it. And then, the big question was, all right, sweet, you got all this hemp growing. Do you know what kind it was? A lot of them didn't know what kind it was, didn't know like what they were growing. And it was a mess, man. It was a mess. And then comes the question, all right, where are you gonna store all this? Or are you gonna harvest this, dry it, and store it? And the places I was shown that they planned to dry this stuff was like an old weathered barn, dust and old spider webs everywhere. Yeah, they planned on cleaning it, but I mean, come on. Like, my idea of a dry room is like, a nice like white walls, and like those plastic walls that are in like kitchens and shit that you can just spray down. And cool, you have to have the environment control in those things too. So these are just things that are not thought ahead of. It's like, all right, so that's number one. Once all my cannabis is dry, who do you have to buy it? Like, do you have someone to buy? Like, that's the biggest. These are two biggest things that are not in the forethought where they should be. It's all grow, 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 make this stuff the best, make it the best, which is totally important.
Which
Totally
is
needs to be.
fair for farmers to think about, because that's what farmers do.
Yeah, but the
But yeah,
business at the end, like, this is still your product. You still got to finish it. Like, yes, it's done, and it's still got to, you know what I mean? It's like when I'm doing my eggs. It's like, all right, yeah, I have a dozen eggs right here, but they're all got shit and wood chips all over them. I got to wash them to make them pretty for people to So there's that extra step of making sure I have cartons, making sure they're clean. I have the time to clean them prior to farmers market. So there's
and it seemed like that was really the big bottleneck in the hemp industry was the processing.
Yeah, people were giving. That's why the price went down so much. The market was so flooded. People were taking it left and right, making CBD oil out of it. Everyone had the gold rush CBD oil. Just take whole plant mass, whole plant mass, whole plant mass. No one had the forethought of walking through the fields, taking cuts of something that looked spectacular that you could throw fields of for the next year. The whole grower mentality was just not there with anyone. There was farms I'm like, yo, you should walk through here when they start flowering, and just anything that's a winner to you, just take cuts of that so you can clone it, and then next season you're gonna have a field full of CBD that the percentage of. You're gonna have a field full of the colors it's gonna give, the trichomount it's gonna give. You're gonna have a field full of this. It's just, I don't know if I got through to farmers or not, but that was my biggest.
Did that just seem a little wild? The 0.3% THC on CBD plants.
The whole thing was wild, man. And then it got once the government took control.
What's the difference between 0.3 and 0.5 and 1%?
It's so nil, dude. It really, it's not even, it wouldn't affect you psychoactively. It's just, it's the whole rules and regulations for all this stuff is silly. My girl grows CB or hemp microgreens, and they wanted her to test that, a microgreen hemp. There's no cannabinoids in that. It's just minimal terpenes that the flavonoids that you get from it. It's a nuttiness. They're really good.
What does she do with those? Put them in salads and shit?
We had a place called the Free Range Restaurant in Chester. She was actually selling trays, 10 by 20 trays and they were using them in dishes for the restaurant. She definitely was selling them to places to sell.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, her biggest thing was she wasn't trying to package these up and sell them in markets or whatever. She was going right to restaurants and just trying to sell the trays themselves, which worked.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can I ask you about Justin Massey?
Sure can.
Can I? Yeah. You said when I first started making hash, Justin said, "How do you do that?" And I had a great interview with him, and honestly, that was the first time I ever felt stupid in an interview. So if you taught him how to do that, I was hoping maybe you could talk to us a little bit about it.
No, that was very short-lived. That kid asking me about hash, because he's amazing. He's amazing. He asked me about my hash. I gave him the rundown, and pretty much he dove into research about it. He's blown me out of the water as far as hash production goes. I only wanted good hash. I just wanted to smoke good hash, and I wanted to have good dabs. So I did some research on how to make some good hash and good dabs, or make it properly so it doesn't oxidize and turn black on me. So I just did that, and he was asking questions about that. I told him everything I knew, and he took that and just flipped the switch, man. I try to keep up with his conversations nowadays. So you feeling stupid is well, it's a definitely correct term, because I understand that. He's an amazing scientist. If you don't think about trying to have this guy on your team for any kind of hash stuff, you're crazy. He's probably the most knowledgeable guy in the hash field in the state, easily, maybe in the Northeast too.
Damn.
So that's Justin. He was a glassblower too. That's how I know him. We knew each other through glassblowing first before we got into this cannabis crap.
Oh, that's right. He did. Oh, okay. There it is.
Yep.
All right, we found it. That's the thread.
He's a great dude. Really stoked to call him a friend.
Yeah, I hope I get to meet him someday.
Oh, you will.
I will. Yeah. You also said, so you mentioned the town of Chester, which is about 20 minutes away from you. You said they have gone with the option of setting up a local cannabis control board, and you went down there to do sort of some educational outreach at some of these meetings. Could you?
Yeah.
How'd that go? What was your message? I mean, who are you talking to?
So this was prior to COVID. We were doing this in 2019, I want to say. It was me and Scott Blair from Southern Pie Cafe. We got together, because of the passion of the plant, and started talking about it. And I was helping him with some grow stuff too. Um, it was a lot of like law stuff that I was helping him with, like how much you could do and what you could do with it and whatever, and like you selling clones and whatnot of hemp clones. And so it was a lot of that sort of stuff that I was helping him, which led to the whole, hey, maybe we should do like a educational thing here. So we started setting up hemp and cannabis educational meetings weekly. Again, this was prior to COVID, and we would all gather at the cafe, and it was like after hours for the cafe, so it was reopened for us to come in and have some coffee, and we got together and got to talk about all sorts of things. I was an open book to whatever people wanted to know, if whatever I could answer as far as like organics and probiotics. And
So people are just bouncing questions off of you.
yeah, and I mean there was even some parents there who had a kid that had cancer that wanted some edible ideas, because the kid didn't like.
Let me stop you right there. How do you? That's a touchy one, but I'm really curious because I have some friends with kids with seizure conditions. How do you go about addressing that specifically? Because I know that's a very delicate issue.
Yeah, it really is a delicate issue, and I leave it all I give the parents all the information. It's not like I'm talking to the kid, and this kid was, I think, 17 going on 18 at the time
Oh,
anyways,
okay.
so
Okay.
it was not hard to talk about. But I've had that happen. Like I just actually recently had a lady message me through Facebook asking, what she should do for her 8-year-old daughter, I think it was, who has seizures stuff, and I'm like, ugh. I'm like, this is really not. And she actually, I found out she lived in like North Carolina or something, so there was nothing I could do for her anyway.
Right.
So I was like,
And
I'm sorry.
obviously, we're not doctors.
No, no, no. I'm
So
not
it's
trying to be
hard to give medical advice to children when you're not a doctor, but it's like, yo, I don't know. Personally, for me, it's like I want to help, but like, ugh,
I help with information. That's all I could do. So I
yeah,
give them look for resources that they could find in their area if I can, which is what I was doing through the meetings. I was trying to be the helpful resource that I could. And if I couldn't find the answer to their question, I'd say, hey, come back in the next meeting. I'll do my research and I'll have an answer for you. So it was really, I just really wanted the reefer madness of Chester to stop, and have everyone realize that if you're going to be selling tobacco and alcohol and have bars in your town, you can't be against this plan. It doesn't make
well,
sense.
also alcohol at every gas station and corner store. Like,
Yeah, there's two
are,
gas stations in Chester. There's a liquor store in Chester. There's like three serving alcohol bars establishments in Chester. I think maybe four at the time, but it was all of these silly, propaganda stuff of why we shouldn't have cannabis here. It's gonna
are,
ruin
are
our
you still
kids.
you're still seeing a lot of that in Chester?
Yeah, that's why they have that whole control board. I mean, the control board was
What kind of complaints are you hearing?
it's like the devil's lettuce, just the old reefer madness. Like it's literally some of the reefer madness stuff that's spilling in like some of the documents that's been shared through some of the select board members there. It's just been like, and I even went in front of the select board for a town meeting to talk about cannabis because they were talking about it being sold in town and the legalization of it and all this other stuff. It's been quite the crazy ride for that town for sure, and it still is because my friend Scott, he's trying to open up a little dispensary in town, and they don't want, like, they're like, oh, we don't want the riffraff in town here, and I'm like, I don't, there's no riffraff, and it's not like we're gonna, I did not have a big neon sign saying, cannabis sold here. It's more gonna be like the word of mouth type shop, that we're
Doesn't a
trying to do.
liquor store also attract riffraff?
All of these points in the bars that are there. Yeah, all of these points were brought up, dude. Like there's like a Scottish bar in town too or something. I don't know. There's all sorts of
Why
stuff
do those
going
points
on.
always get dismissed by these kind of people?
Totally. And that's what constantly happened. You bring up these good points and then they would just get rolled right over. But thankfully there are some people on the select board there that were like, they were understanding, and they saw the points that were brought to the table. Even the chief of police shook my hand after that whole meeting, which that felt good.
And now, Dave, that seems like a good segue because as I was just looking at your hair there, and you look like you fit a description. Maybe how has your interaction with police been throughout your life? If you don't mind
Uh,
me asking.
it's been iffy. I mean, it was good early on just because my dad was an EMT, so all the cops knew me just because my dad was an EMT. But there's been times where when I was living more in northern New Hampshire, we were definitely pulled over because we were just a car full of dreadies. And Cop City smelled weed, which was totally not true because we were all going over my only friend that had any weed left. We were going to his house to smoke it. So it was definitely not true. It was like, oh, well, I saw you blow through a red light. I'm like, I distinctly counted to 3 before I turned right because I knew your ass was right there. But yeah, there's definitely profiling. But thankfully, it hasn't been too crazy, especially since the legalization stuff's been passed in a lot of the Northeast states. It's not too crazy. The only time they get a little sketched out is going to New Hampshire.
Mm. Those cops over there do seem to always give me a hard time.
They are not the fun ones at all. I mean, there are some good ones. I mean, not there are definitely some good ones out there, but yeah, for the most part, it's not fun in New Hampshire.
Mm. Dave, I wanted to rewind just for a second because you did talk about sort of these mycelial networks in your garden, and I've been asking a lot of people about. I see a lot of people are growing their own mushrooms, like inoculating these logs and stuff. Are you a mushroom grower or a hunter or anything like that?
Yeah, I do forage. I typically forage for fiddleheads and ramps in the spring, and then come. I don't know. I don't go out really like, oh, I'm going for mushrooms today. I just like if I can come across them, I'm like super stoked because I don't eat them, but my girl loves mushrooms, and I know which ones are edible in the woods. It makes going out in the woods more fun when you can keep an eye out for extra shit. No,
You
I
bring
don't.
something home for your girlfriend. You're like, hey.
It's better than flowers because she gets to eat it.
Word up. Let me ask you this. We're getting towards the end of my question list here. You said maybe you're thinking about hopping into local politics, Dave.
Politics, yeah.
Hmm. What what
I
what kind of got you to that decision, and what are some things that are sort of important issues for you that you're seeing?
Well, I've always wanted to get. Well, I wouldn't say full on into like local town politics has been something I've wanted to get into, just because I feel like chirping from the sideline. Yeah, I'm a voter and I get out there and vote, but chirping from the sidelines gets old, and I wouldn't mind being part of it and helping be part of the greater good, I guess. And being a younger mind in a lot of these circumstances too is I feel like that's going to happen more in our overall government. Never mind just local, but you got to start small. So that's what I'm trying to do. And I find like since I bought my house here, I was like, all right, now that I bought a house, I'm rooted, and this is going to be where I start trying to do some of these things. I really don't know what I'm going to run for or anything right now. I've been in the whole like getting to the school board meeting.
Cannabis Control Board chairman.
Yeah, that'd be nice, huh? But like I said, Wyndham is so small; it'd have to be some other town I'd work for.
No, I mean James Pepper. He's got a 3-year deal, right? After that, we need a new chairman.
Yeah.
Can we talk about your genetics a little bit? Is that a thing we could discuss? Because some of your pictures, man, it looks like you just growing some of the nicest herb in the state, really, from what I've seen.
I really I seek out some of the highest quality genetics first off, and I pay the coin for it because it. And I don't know, I don't really go for hype strains like wedding cakes and like the purple punches and all that stuff. I go for little like lesser known stuff, and Muerta Genetics has been a guy that I've been getting a lot of my stuff off of because he just puts out frost monsters. I mean, a lot of Vermont's been figuring that out lately. Um, and I also got some stuff from Lucky Dog Seed Company, which he's got the actual ChemDog 91 genetics. He's got this ChemDog 91 male that he's been using. He's got that. So it's got this back crossed male of 2 times and back crossed 3 times. So he's got it really stable. And everything I've grown from has just got like that ChemDog undertone. The the Chem Fuego I'm growing right now is like a sweet chem. It's got a sweet note to it, and then the dog patch I'm growing is just that foul, skunky chem dog from back deadlock days.
Is that guy friendly?
I haven't. He's I don't know. I can't give an answer
We should
because I
find
haven't.
out. I'd love to talk to him.
Yeah, I have yet to talk to him.
That Los Pepes look pretty nice too.
That stuff has been my big winner. Like when I got that tested at White River Grow Pro, tested at over 30% cannabinoids, and that I can't. I really have to say that it's the genetics and like switching over to the probiotics. I've been having so much more like stink off of everything. Everything's producing more terpenes. It seems. I don't know if that's a fact. I just know that like
What were you using before that?
I was using Remo nutrients before that. And then, oh yeah. So when I did the switch to organics, I went from Remo to BioBiz Organics. They're a Dutch company. So I went from like the Canadian company Remo, and then I went to BioBiz, which is fully organic Dutch company. And then that's where I slowly weaned off of that and got into the White River Grow Pros top dressing amendments, and that's what we use pretty much fully. That plus my probiotics.
What up, Stephanie? Still want you to come on the show? Yeah, they're great. I talked to her on the phone. She was killer. I still haven't met Kendall, but I'd love to have them on. Everybody has great things to say about them.
Yeah, I can't stop talking about White River Grow Pro. They've always been so fun to deal with.
Well then, shit. Well, we've reached the end here, David. Or have you dealt? Let me ask you this: have you dealt with any of the banking or insurance or any of their zoning, or even looked into any of those kind of issues?
I've talked with my bank, with Heritage Family Credit Union. When I had my hemp stuff going on, I talked to them about it, and they were really legit. They're actually pissed off that they're not able to get into it because of like the federal regulations and stuff. So yeah, I mean, because I sat down with the branch person there, the branch manager, I think it was. We had a great talk, and she was like, "Look, we can't set you up with a cannabis account, but if you don't talk about it, we're not going to know." And it was just like, it was comforting to know that they're like on your side, but they can't really help right now because of federal regulations and stuff.
Well, I mean, it's a bank. They want your money.
they're sitting on the sidelines for sure, because that's what I was telling them. Like,
every bank wants your money.
Yeah, they realize they're missing out on a crap load of money. They're trying to get it figured out, but it's got to happen with legislation and all that other crap first.
Yeah, and this is sort of federal regulations here. This FinCEN regulations and shit. That's federal stuff. So that's going to be tricky.
It is. But it's money, you know what I mean? And money talks, so they're going to get it figured out, I'm sure.
Well, Dave, this has been an absolute pleasure. I'm really glad we got to do this. I always leave the last word to my guests, so I'm going to leave it open for you. And thank you one more time for being here with me, man.
Yeah, thank you for having me, man. I'm glad to come here and speak out. If anyone wants to reach out to me around the Jamaica area of Vermont, that's where I'm at. Yeah, I'm happy to talk all things cannabis or even just farming, man. It's just fun. Or even music. I'm quite into music too.
You're a drummer. I forgot to mention that, right? You a drummer?
I am, yes. I've got a couple bands I've been working on right now, the Throwing Stones and also Breadbasket. So we're getting busy, getting things going for sure. Got a fall foliage festival we're playing on October 1st. If you're in the area, check it out. Should be a good time.
What kind of books you got in the background? Anything good?
Books? Those are all my books. They're all coloring books and stuff. So that's my kids' like learning area and such. I have like this cute nook over there for them.
Perfect. All right. Thanks again, Dave. This is a pleasure. I'll get this up soon, and I wish you the best of luck with everything. Keep me posted, please, if you wouldn't mind, sir.
No problem, man. Thank you for having me.
Peace. Oh.